we're coming live again from Davidson, North Carolina. I am Harrison Hill, aka DJ Drill Hill.
Ryan Woods, aka DJ Wood.
I'm Davidson College, aka DJ Side Off Shotty.
And this is Min Ho, DJ Hero.
You already know we're coming back with the latest and greatest heat in the streets. Now pop the tape. DJ Side Off Shotty, what we got going on today?
Well, today we're going to talk about the historical changes that have happened over in the music industry and how that shifted in terms of how the process of getting discovered and in terms of the labels and their falling dominance. So, DJ Wood, what have you noticed?
So there's been a change from a very industry-dominated entire music industry, and so now artists are really grabbing that power back, especially with streaming services and with artists ran labels, and even some artists streaming services like Jay-Z's Tidal and whatnot.
So, DJ, what you see?
So we've seen music going from exclusively radio with like satellite being like the premium option then, and with the advent of like high quality MP3 files, we've seen albums in physical copies. And CDs were big until the early 2000s when file sharing was discovered, and since file sharing, really the music industry and accessibility to content has just not been the same, with streaming services like Apple Music, Spotify, and SoundCloud dominating the current scene.
You know, that's actually been a really big change. Something that I was reading in the New York Times article, they said in the last decade that CD sales have dropped to about 1.5 billion, and that's a drop of 84% in this decade alone. And from 2014 to 2015, just in that 1 year, CD sales have dropped by 17%, and ad-supported on-demand streams such as SoundCloud, for example, have gone up by 31%, and subscription streaming has done fantastic, with Apple Music and Spotify going up by about 52%.
Honestly, bro, I think the last CD I might have bought, like hard copy, probably 5th grade, Jay Holiday's big album, when I was just into like Bed and Suffocating. That was like well over 10 years ago. So I believe all those stats.
I was gonna say, like, for me, the last CD I bought was probably like 2-3 years ago, but that was only because my parents' car didn't have an aux, and it was like I was buying my dad like a CD because he didn't have an aux. Otherwise, we would use a streaming service like Spotify, Pandora, etc. So I mean, yeah, that's like they tell their truth.
No, it's definitely been it's been a big thing that these streaming services have done for artists specifically too. Just especially with SoundCloud, we've seen a lot of artists come up through SoundCloud. I know you guys have seen Uzi now is one of the top artists. Same with Yachty, you know. So guys like that have really made a name for themselves off these places where they're producers and they're being able to put their music up and have other people from other audiences listen to it. If you can get it big in your own city, you know, you have the opportunity to go stretch that somewhere else, and you never know, like, you don't need to go, drop off demo tapes in a big recording studio anymore, because chances are they weren't going to listen to it anyway.
Right.
So,
I got a friend back home right now who's like getting started. K Bully, he's a rapper coming out of Cincinnati. He's still in high school, but he's got his stuff up on SoundCloud. Just got on Spotify, got like 40,000 like listens monthly. So he's taking off on Spotify. Like, that's really been a huge tool for him.
And it only really takes one repost from one big artist. Like you get one song on the way.
That's really how Amigos went from being mixtape rappers to real live real live rappers when Drake hopped on their Versace remix.
yeah, you just need that one cosign, you know. And a lot of artists are looking for people on those streaming services now, especially because, you know, with people moving away from the labels, just on the basis of artists weren't getting the royalties back from the labels, because now, especially with the change going to streaming services, those labels were taking a lot of the share. They're taking about 90% off the profit of albums, and that is, you know, they were getting paid on pennies. It was something I was reading in Rolling Stone articles, and you know, that 10%, when you get paid for each stream, it's really, you get a couple pennies in your bank account, you know. So a lot of artists don't want to stay with that method, so a lot of them are starting to run their own labels and make sure that they're getting their own artists paid. And either that, or with the streaming services and the ability to post your own music, a lot of artists have come up on their own to the point where they don't even need a label. They're doing it without one. You know, they're independent. Artists such as T Grizzly did that. You know, he came out of jail, dropped first day out, got really, really big, and now dude is flexing $100,000 chains on Instagram. So anybody can get discovered. It's just, but another thing to think about is just there's a lot more artists now that are out there. You know what I mean? So you really have to establish yourself, and I think that's been a big culture change for us to see artists come up and have to establish themselves in a place where you're just a small fish in a pond. So somebody has to become that big fish. And, we definitely seen that, and they've become the stars in our industry today.
I mean, would y'all say that the culture shift is that whatever percentage of royalties that labels were taking, was it not worth the amount of work that they were doing for these upcoming artists, like in terms of marketing and like providing a platform for them to spring off of and achieve the fame that they want to, and how the record label plays into that process? Do you think maybe they were taking a little bit too much responsibility for the success of an artist?
Well, let me throw you a statistic real quick. In 2006, this is all from the New York Times, by the way, physical copies were about $12 billion, and the music industry was adapted to that type of thing. Digital copy sales at the time were only about $2 billion. In 2015, digital sales have bumped up to $5 billion, and physical sales are down to about $7 billion and have continued to streamline downwards. So because of that, the music industry is having to switch over to a new platform where they're having to figure out ways to actually pay their artists, and some of those ways aren't effective. So artists are feeling that they're not getting the right compensation for the amount of work they're putting in, and that's definitely something to think about, especially when you're putting together a bunch of songs and you're getting paid pennies. For each song that you spent hours on. This is their craft. This is something they work at. So we would definitely we want artists to understand the changes in the industry and what that means for their careers moving forward, and some of the decisions they're going to have to make. Do you want to be a part of one of those big recording labels, or do you want to make connections with somebody that you know is going to take care of you?
Right.
I was gonna say it kind of also depends on on the artist and what their audience is, who their audience is. 'Cause artists younger audience, rappers that we listen to, they're gonna be much more resilient to their recording labels and stuff like that, and want to kind of break away from them and kind of do their own thing. But an older artist who's kind of been in that model for some time, who might not even be in the rap genre, but say R&B singers and things like that, they'll be okay with kind of staying in, because they're people who listen to their music aren't all listening to it on streaming sites. They're buying the CD still, but that's just what they're used to. They're kind of resilient to the change themselves. Their users are resilient to the change.
And that's honestly a reason that rap's been such a catalyst in this change. You've seen a lot of artists stepping away from their labels, and then once they get big enough, they start their own ones. And you've seen that with Jay-Z, with Rockefeller Music. You've seen that with Kanye with Good Music. You've seen that with J. Cole now, who's established himself and he's made himself Dreamville. Got to represent. And then on top of that, Kendrick Lamar with TDE. So it's just a lot of changes are happening because rap artists have been less willing to sacrifice their own art and their money for big labels, because they feel like they're at a place and they're at a community that people will still listen to their music regardless, because it's on enough platforms where they will get compensation. So that's definitely been a big change, and I think that's something that we'll continue to discuss, and that's something that is something to keep in mind for the next episode.
Right.
So this is DJ Sawed-Off Shotty, DJ Hero,
DJ Wood,
DJ Drew Hill.
and we're signing off with It's a Pimpin' Industry. Thank you for listening.